There are many different ways to do character animation in After Effects. Bones and rigging is one method. Another is using the pick whip to create a hierarchy. And the difference will be the type of style of animation that you, or in particular your client, wants to tell on a timeline, on a budget, or just because of stylization. This is going to go over using the pick whip to create a hierarchy that then you can animate anything with. So my next part is to organize the lily parts so it can be animated, whether you're using a bone system or you're just going to be using pick whip and hierarchy to animate it. I would select each part. You can see that every single part, its transform is in the center of the character. We have to move that. So setting up won't take that long. There's 15 layers to go through. Spending a little time here using the Y key, which is the pan behind tool, anchor tool, moving that tool. You would just take this and move it here to the top where you think the leg would move. You can turn on snapping to help you. Clicking here and doing this for all the body parts. You're going to have to make a decision whether that layer actually rotates around there. Drag around the rotation, and you're seeing if the part rotates correctly. So using the rotation tool. And continue this for everything on the character. Right around there, turning off snapping, because snapping might get in your way of doing this. Here. And then the next part is creating a hierarchy out of this. But before I continue, I'm opening up the right upper leg and I'm rotating it under rotation here. I'm thinking about the type of rotations happening. Artwork should extend, be rounder down here, and that would hide this little issue. So going back, correcting the artwork, I could repair it here quickly as well by double clicking, but by repairing it here, it's no longer on the outside, meaning it's no longer on the original file. And if we're committing to After Effects right now, sometimes you have to correct things in After Effects. After Effects becomes the source of this. Now, again, I think I could draw this in Illustrator in a second or two, same thing in Photoshop. So fixing it here, it might have been a little more efficient to take a look at this, thought about it a little earlier, and fix it there. When you're building your artwork, think about how it's going to be animated. Now let's look at this part. So that covers some of that. Going back to here, rotating. That's a little better. I think, though, anchor point, let me hit reset. And selecting this upper leg, I hit reset, one back there, got it. Let me move that maybe to here and do the same thing for this leg as well. The next part is to create a hierarchy, and then we can animate. Now, if you're using a bone system, this might not be necessary. If you're going to be animating this character just in the flow of After Effects, by keyframes, hierarchy to do a quick little waving animation, stuff like that, this part would be necessary. I'm going to select the foot, and I'm going to pick whip the right foot to the right lower leg. And then I'll pick whip the right lower leg, pick whip it to the right upper leg. And we do this, so if I select the right upper leg and start rotating it, the whole leg system follows. If I do the same with the lower leg, and the foot still has its independence. Undo, undo, undo. Follow up the chain again, starting from here, and I'll pick up the V key, just because I'm doing everything here. From the foot on the left side to the lower leg, from the lower leg on the left side to the upper leg. You can test it out. W key to pick up the rotation tool and just see if everything follows, and it does. Great. Same thing with the hand. Click on the hand and pick whip it to the lower right arm. And from the lower right arm the upper right arm, and I'll just jump to the left side. Left hand to the left lower arm, to the left upper arm, and then from the upper arm, we want to hit the torso. Let me just move the system. See, that worked. Undo. And this worked. Now, if you want your hands in front of your character, we're going to have to move all these layers above the torso. Not a big deal. That's really just these two. Maybe they belong all the way on top of this hierarchy. This way, when I pick the right upper arm and animate it, it's in front of the character, not in front of the legs. So all this also has to go ahead of the legs. So the right side, all the arms here. I'm going to drag here. Would have been better if I did this in Illustrator or Photoshop. So remember that when you're doing this. And also depends, because sometimes you need your hands to be behind the character. If it was a profile view and walking, it'd be a totally different setup. So think about your setup, test it. There's my character like this. The head, be able to rotate like this. Let's connect the rest of the systems. Back to the upper arm, right, is parented to the torso. And the upper arm on the left side, same thing to the torso. The head goes there to the torso as well. And upper right leg would go to the body. And the upper left leg will go to the body. And the body, let's say, is the parent of everything. So the top, let me just move it up a little bit. The top is pick whip to the body. Now I'm checking out everything on my parent and links. Let me expand this. And what we did, from a result point of view, I pick up the move tool. If I select the body, everything should move. The whole character moves. If I select the torso up here and rotate it, the whole upper body should rotate correctly. And maybe the upper body, and same thing with the other body parts as well. So creating a hierarchy is very important. You try to create your hierarchy in Photoshop, in Illustrator first, and it might change up depending upon the angle of your character. You might not need to do this if you're using bone animation. If you're doing animation within After Effects directly, you just want your character to say hello or stuff like that. Wave its arm. Start with the upper arm, and I'll place a key right there. And let's say Command Shift 10 frames later, we'll rotate the character's arm a little bit like this. We have this going on. As that happens, let's look at the lower right arm. R key. Now, I've written scripts to do this because there is this mathematical relationship, much like bone systems do. As this goes up, this should go up a little more. It's not as stiff, and we got our character about to raise its arm. Let's look at the hand as I R key again down here. Rotate and go back to the same frame. Maybe its hand is starting to do this a little bit. Let's say 5 frames later. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll repeat all this again. I could see where I can perfect the moving of the anchor. And so you would just test out your character first before animating, just to make sure the anchor points are exactly where you need it. So this one, upper arm here. Let me rotate a little higher. Lower arm, like this. And then the hand will continue its momentum a little bit like this. Now you have your character being able to raise its hand and the wave. At this point, I might switch out the artwork for the hand to forward facing. If not, if it's just a subtle little raise your hand wave in there, like, yes, I'm here. You hold these keyframes for a moment. Like this. And then the character starts to put its arm down again. Say at frame 25. Starts to rotate this way a little bit, this way. Look at the motion. Forward and down. I think this has to swing down a lot quicker. Be nice if held in the air a little longer. That's okay. We could do that because here's the keyframes. And I'll just select these keyframes. I'll just move them over. And then you put the character's arm back down. Let's say to its side. Say by frame 45. This character's arm is back in the neutral position. Maybe it's swayed a little bit like this. Same thing with the hand. And then a little secondary motion where whereas this went inward, this lower arm goes outward again. And the hand goes out a little bit as well. Who here is enjoying animation? I am. See? So this is one way to go play. And when you do bones, this could be roughly the same idea. Other than the hierarchy, we're moving bones to create the positioning. And don't forget to create that secondary motion like here. Action. And the reaction is you bump into the side of your character's body, and then the hand might just bounce off a little bit. So those subtle moments. And you can look at the keyframes. The keyframes tell a story. And when I was keying, Command Shift right arrow, I'm keying at 2, 3, 4, 5. On 10s and 5s, this way I always could go back and do secondary motion. Except for here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go, 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this one is at 37, so I might just pull back this to this, 2 5s, unless I think it's really necessary. 45, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you think those 2 frames make a difference, it had to be there visually, of course, do it. But if you start to use a system like on the 10s, on the 5s, you're animating things, then that gives you room in between to always tweak with extra little motion that maybe has to happen right in between here and here, whatever that might be. So there's your introduction to hierarchies and everything else, getting started with animating your characters. But before you animate, of course, it's all about the setup, making sure that your character's organized from a layer stacking point of view, that the arm is from the character, if that makes sense. Yet, if this character is facing profile, this right arm might be behind the character if it's the profile other way, where the character is facing to the right side, and this arm is uppermost layer, and this arm is on the lowermost layer. Hope you enjoyed, and if you're in the class, this file, along with the assets, Photoshop and Illustrator, are within the discussion.